This week in Jamaica Now, over $1 trillion for Jamaica's hurricane recovery.
Our reconstruction is not merely about restoring what was lost. It is about building a stronger, more competitive Jamaica capable of withstanding future climate shocks.
The Prime Minister says it's an opportunity, while his opposition counterpart warns against jubilation over debt.
These debts that we are now going to be incurring to finance our attempts at recovery are like lending money to a business that suffered losses through some kind of crisis that is trying to dig itself out of a hole from.
The Accompong Maroons have rejected the JDF's help to rebuild houses.
The full Maroon Council instead has resolved to continue with the response, utilizing civilian resources from our joining communities and our partners, both locally and internationally.
Jamaica's corruption prosecutor rules that the country's junior finance minister is to be charged. Why? And saluting a pioneer, World War II veteran and legal icon, Ena Woodstock has died. I'm Neville Graham, and this is Jamaica Now. 5 major international financial institutions have announced a U.S. $6.7 billion support package, that's just over Jamaican $1 trillion, to aid Jamaica's recovery and reconstruction following Hurricane Melissa. The Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, Caribbean Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank, IMF, and World Bank Group will provide financing over 3 years. The package includes emergency funds, sovereign loans, grant support, and private sector investment. The World Bank estimates that Hurricane Melissa caused about US $8.8 billion or Jamaican $1.4 trillion in damage. That's 41% of Jamaica's 2024 GDP, making it the costliest hurricane in the nation's history. At least 45 persons have been killed. Of the total package, US $3.6 billion, mostly in loans, will finance the government's recovery program, supporting priority infrastructure, resilient communities, and small businesses. Technical assistance, policy advice, and anticipated private investment of about US $2.4 billion are expected to further strengthen long-term recovery and resilience planning. And Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness said while the package includes significant debt, it represents an opportunity to transform Jamaica.
We will approach reconstruction as a growth-inducing strategy. I know from this that the question will be asked, why are we celebrating more debt? We are not celebrating more debt. What we are celebrating is the opportunity to make a massive investment in our infrastructure, in our people, in the services that improve productivity. And it is that investment, Madam Speaker, that will expand our economy relative to our debt. And therefore, in short order, you can look forward to growing, increased revenue, and a relatively smaller debt to the size of your economy.
Holness was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Meanwhile, opposition leader Mark Golding has cautioned against celebrating the package, even as he acknowledged that loans were necessary. He also noted that Jamaica is suffering the consequences of global warming despite being a minor contributor to the problem.
I think we should approach an announcement like this with some sobriety. This event has caused us to retrace our steps substantially from the economic path we were on, and which the nation incurred substantial sacrifices to get to where we were. I'm not blaming the government for Melissa. That would be absurd. I'm not blaming the government for seeking resources to fund the recovery. It's going to be necessary to get those resources. I am just making the point that this is not something to celebrate. This is not something to gloat about. This represents a substantial setback for Jamaica, and it represents if it's not administered properly, it could permanently weaken our future prospects and damage the country's future.
And also on Tuesday, Finance Minister Favour Williams tabled the third revised budget for the ongoing financial year with about $29 billion set aside for Hurricane Melissa response. The revised budget shows allocations moving from approximately $1.3 trillion to almost $1.4 trillion, an increase of approximately $106 billion. Williams told lawmakers that in addition to the normal operations of government for which supplementary provisions are made, the revised budget includes $29.3 billion, that's about US $142 million, allocated for Hurricane Melissa response and relief efforts. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development will receive the largest share of $7.2 billion for road infrastructure and the purchasing of 3,300 containerized folding units for housing. The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development has been allocated $4.6 billion to finance the National Solid Waste Management Authority cleanup operations and provide assistance to municipal corporations. The Ministry of Tourism will receive $3.4 billion and the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change $3.2 billion to continue the restoration work of the water and sewerage network. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining will also be allocated $3 billion for relief and recovery within the agriculture and fisheries sector. The government says that millions of dollars donated through Hurricane Melissa relief accounts managed by the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, will be used to purchase building materials to rebuild homes. Last month, Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon reported that US $1.68 million and Jamaican $635 million had been donated to ODPEM-controlled accounts, but none of the funds had yet been spent. But at a news conference on Tuesday, Dr. Morris Dixon said one of the first housing projects will be in Westmoreland. That initiative will be led by engineers from Guyana along with the Jamaica Defense Force.
The money will be used to buy material that can then be traced to the individuals who have gotten it. So it will go to a house. We know that that house was damaged. We know that family is not able to repurchase the material needed to fix it. So that's how the funds will be used. In addition to that, Guyana, and we thank President Ali that came with the CARICOM team that visited Jamaica. They have offered their corps of engineers to work with us, to work with the JDF. And so the JDF and the Guyanese team will be going out and fixing houses. They'll actually be rebuilding houses. But in order to rebuild the houses, they need material. And so we're using the Support Jamaica funds to buy the material to fix those houses. Now, only houses that have been assessed as having been damaged by the Ministry of Labour will be rebuilt.
Minister Morris Dixon says most of the houses to be rebuilt with Guyana's help will be in Westmoreland Eastern, whose MP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is identifying beneficiaries. ODPEM head Commander Alvin Gale noted that Hurricane Melissa damaged more than 215,000 buildings nationwide. Meanwhile, three leading construction and engineering bodies are calling on the government to prioritize permanent hurricane-resilient homes over temporary container units as Jamaica rebuilds following Hurricane Melissa. The Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica, IMAJ, Jamaica Institution of Engineers, and Jamaican Institute of Architects issued a joint statement this week. They stressed that container units should only serve as emergency shelters. They recommend block and steel, reinforced concrete, and engineered timber housing as the foundation of long-term recovery. They also urged strict enforcement of the building code and the use of local technical expertise to ensure safer, more resilient communities. And Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon says government will soon roll out a framework to allow the public to track Hurricane Melissa donations and distribution amid concerns about fairness in the relief process. The opposition People's National Party has questioned equity in aid delivery and the involvement of its members in coordinations, concerns rejected by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness.
The Prime Minister has noted that within 2 weeks, could be as early as next week, you will have a framework within which to see everything that has come in, all donations that have come, and where they have gone. And I'm very interested in that because I've seen some preliminary data that shows that this notion of partisanship is actually very, very incorrect. It may be partisanship in the other direction. And so when that data comes, you will see exactly which communities, which constituencies got the majority of the aid. It will show you where everything went. And I'm looking forward to that because a lot of people want to know. And I want to know, and I've seen some of it. And so it's good for everyone to know where all of this went. And so we can stop the conversations around partisanship and we can speak about equity and how it has actually happened.
Minister Morris-Dixon was speaking at a news conference on Tuesday. Accompong Maroon Chief Richard Curry says the community has rejected the involvement of military personnel, including Jamaica Defense Force JDF engineers, in post-Hurricane Melissa rebuilding efforts. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness had announced during a recent visit that JDF engineers would assist in rebuilding after about 80% of the homes were damaged. But in a statement on Thursday, Curry said the council will accept materials and equipment but prefers reconstruction through civilian teams and international partners.
Honorable Prime Minister, following a deep, comprehensive internal review and a formal deliberation, the full Maroon Council has this time decided not to accept the offer on the militarization of the space during the recovery effort. The full Maroon Council instead has resolved to continue with the response, utilizing civilian resources from our joining communities and our partners, both locally and internationally, who have offered to the community their assistance in the recovery efforts. Instead, the Council would like to thank you for the offer on materials and would accept the offer on those materials and equipment necessary to assist in those recovery efforts. We want to ensure, Mr. Prime Minister, that harmony and inclusiveness of our maroon human resources, of those here in Accompong and adjoining communities, are balanced to execute the infrastructural relief efforts across our maroon communities. This methodology aligns with our laws and cultural way of life.
Curry also cited indigenous rights under the 1738 Peace Treaty, stressing that reconstruction must follow Accompong's laws and cultural protocols. And China has deployed one of its largest humanitarian medical teams to Jamaica as the Chinese Navy hospital ship Silk Road Ark arrived in Montego Bay on Thursday for a 3-day medical mission. More than 100 doctors, nurses, and technicians are providing free medical care to Jamaicans affected by Hurricane Melissa. Chinese Ambassador Wang Jinfeng also handed over US $2 million in grant funding and confirmed another US $2.1 million in humanitarian supplies. The ship will later move to Falmouth, Trelawney. Thousands across western Jamaica remain in recovery. Cabinet Minister Olivia Grange says Jamaica is looking to partner with the Clinton Foundation to assist with Hurricane Melissa recovery. Grange, who is in charge of the government, made the announcement following a meeting with former United States President Bill Clinton in St. Andrew on Thursday. Grange said it was her pleasure to share the evening with Clinton at a private dinner hosted by Sandals Hotel boss, Ambassador Adam Stewart, along with senior members of the government and other officials. She said earlier on Thursday, Clinton was taken on an aerial tour to observe damage caused by Hurricane Melissa, which slammed Jamaica on October 28, killing at least 45 persons and leaving more than $1 trillion in damage. The Clinton Foundation is an international non-profit organization known for its work in disaster recovery, health, climate resilience, and economic development worldwide. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is away on business, and Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Horace Chang is recovering from a medical procedure. Junior Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Xavier Main, is set to face charges for allegedly failing to provide information on his income and assets, including documents related to the $120 million sale of a shop. That's a ruling of the Integrity Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution, Ranif Lawrence. The report outlines multiple requests made to Maine between October 2023 and February 2024, seeking details on bank accounts, investment portfolios, rental income, and company finances for the years 2018 to 2022. Among other things, Maine allegedly failed to provide documents for the $120 million sale of shop number 16 at Springs Plaza in 2022. Maine responded partially but repeatedly missed deadlines. He also questioned the legitimacy of some requests. Director of Investigations Kevin Stevenson said his independent checks found gaps in documentation for property sales, salaries, and other assets. If convicted under the Integrity Commission Act, Maine could face a fine of up to $500,000 or 6 months imprisonment. Maine, an attorney at law and member of the ruling Jamaica Labour Party, has been the Member of Parliament for St. Anne Southwestern since 2016. And Minister Main has rejected the Integrity Commission's findings and conclusions. His attorney, Nigel Jones, has called the Integrity Commission's move frivolous and a fishing expedition. He insisted that Maine has fully complied with personal financial declaration requirements under the law. He also said the Commission has refused Maine's request to seek a declaration from the court on disputed points of law. People's National Party councillor Ralston Wilson is to face charges for 3 breaches of the Integrity Commission Act. In a report released on Tuesday, Director of Investigations Kevin Stevenson said Wilson failed to submit income and assets declarations for 2019, 2020, and 2022. Stevenson made a recommendation to the corruption prosecutor, who later ruled that Wilson be charged. A legal battle is unfolding over the $120 million compensation awarded to 79-year-old George Williams, the mentally disabled man who spent nearly 50 years in prison without a trial. In June, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Wint Blair ordered the government to pay $78.6 million in compensatory damages and $42 million in vindicatory damages. But 5 months later, the final order authorizing the payout has still not been signed as a court process triggered by the government unfolds. The Attorney General's Chambers has also filed an appeal challenging the award. The government has also asked the Supreme Court to require Williams' niece and court-appointed trustee Pamela Green to outline how the funds will be managed. Green, who sued on Williams' behalf, said the holdup is disrespectful, insisting that the money will go towards his care, including plans to buy him a home. Williams' ordeal was first exposed in 2020. When it emerged, he had spent almost his entire adult life in custody awaiting a murder trial. A heated row over a photograph and a defense suggestion of possible human trafficking featured prominently this week in the murder trial of Constable Noel Maitland in the Home Circuit Court. Jurors on Monday heard Maitland's statement to police. Maitland told the police that Donnelly Donaldson walked out of his Chelsea Manor apartment in July 2022 after an argument about a picture of his child's mother on the wall and his threat to end their relationship. He said the dispute arose the morning after they spent the night together and that Donaldson left later that day. He said efforts to contact her by phone and WhatsApp were unsuccessful. And on Thursday, defense attorney King's Counsel Larry Smith raised the possibility that Donaldson was trafficked. The investigating detective acknowledged that information about a possible sighting and human trafficking was received, but said no confirmed evidence was obtained. Maitland is charged with murder and preventing the lawful burial of a corpse. The trial resumes Monday. Senior figures in Jamaica's media have strongly rejected a call from government lawmaker Marlene Malahoo Fort to reinstate criminal libel, warning it would threaten press freedom. She argued that the issue should be revisited given how persons are using online platforms to target persons. President of the Press Association of Jamaica, Dashan Hendricks, said the 2013 Defamation Act deliberately removed criminal penalties in favor of civil remedies, and reversing that could chill investigative journalism and weaken public accountability. He noted the Cybercrimes Act already provides strong penalties for online abuse. Media Association Jamaica Chairman Gary Allen also called the proposal a retrograde step, warning journalists could again face imprisonment for defamation. Criminal libel, which could result in persons going to prison, was abolished by Parliament in 2013 with unanimous support. Tributes have flowed for Law and World War II veteran Ena Woodstock, who died Tuesday at the age of 108. The government has described her as a pioneering woman whose life broke barriers in both the military and law. Minister of Culture Olivia Grange highlighted her military service, noting Collymore Woodstock became the first black female radar operator during World War II, after insisting she be assigned to anti-aircraft duties rather than clerical work. After the war, she studied law and returned to Jamaica, achieving a series of firsts. She was the first woman clerk of the court, assistant crown solicitor, and resident magistrate. Chief Justice Brian Sykes said her legacy resonates in every courtroom where a woman now resides, while Court of Appeal President Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop called her a true architect of transformation. Ena Woodstock's decades-long career earned her the Order of Distinction and the Order of the British Empire. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notifications, and subscribe today. I'm Never Graham.